A lot of people.
This meeting is being recorded.
Wow, that's new.
That is new. It's the update.
Yeah. So, so this is our first meeting of the year, 2020, January. Yay! So I know a lot of people do resolutions and those kind of things, but it is an obvious time to kind of refocus and to reprioritize. And that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on today. So we'll just go ahead and start. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you're here. Our numbers are small, but they're the mighty. I'm like, all these are my good people. So I'm really happy that you're here. So of course, who are we missing at our table? That's how we're going to start these things, and we're going to talk about this. Who else do we need to bring in? We've showed the 12 sectors several times. I will send those in our minutes when I send those again. Those are the 12 areas that we want to see here. Right now, we've got a lot of them represented already, but there are definitely holes in places where we need to strengthen who we're having here. And granted, we know there's people who would be here, but they're probably in a meeting or something like that. But who have we never seen at our table that we can get here? Please think of those ideas. Please email those ideas to me, or we can talk about them at the end of the meeting when we have a little bit more of our free time. Our meeting schedule, that went out with the invitation to everyone. We have the second Wednesday from 9 to approximately 11 every month except August. However, we have gotten a lot of feedback from parenting groups in particular that is not feasible, that they actually need a night meeting or something else because they can't make it. Working parents, people who aren't in this industry that can't count this as, you know, part of their job responsibilities. How can we reach them? I saw that Barb's on here. I know that we have tried for several years to have 2 dinner meetings a year. Those were very low attended, and we had some issues with those. So some ideas that have come to me from other people are maybe have a satellite meeting just in addition to this one, where we invite communities or certain groups and then go to them. So for example, at the library or at a community center, maybe doing some satellite PCMC meetings, just so we're making sure that we're making it available. And then maybe with some of those have some of our members who are bilingual, or maybe hire a formal translator or someone that can reach people who speak Spanish is one of our biggest needs, especially in Trenton. So those are some of the scheduling issues that we've come up with. Does anybody have any ideas? You're welcome to unmute yourself. You're welcome to let me know. How do these meetings fit with your schedule? I mean, we've been around for 11 years now. I think this has been our schedule for at least the last 5 that I've been here, probably way before that. So many of our, you know, stalwart members or our legacy members are just prepared that it's the second Wednesday of the month. But some of the ones that have joined us in the more recent years, what do you guys see?
Well, Melissa, it's Carol Chamberlain, and I don't fit that second category, but how about if some of our members host a meeting at their facility at some point in time?
That's a great idea. Have a host, have a member host. Okay, that's a great idea. Definitely want to.
I'll add to her suggestion of perhaps we should plan to have at least a couple of meetings at the public libraries throughout the year, trying different townships to see if perhaps we can connect to people that might not have the resources to make it to the current location of the meeting.
Okay. You know what, I'm just going to keep my slideshow going here. Ruth is going to take the notes. There we go. All right. So those are locations more than times. Obviously, if we're going to the libraries, we could probably do the evening meetings or the evening satellite meeting in addition to our monthly meeting. But are there any times for the general assembly, we'll call it, for the general assembly? Should we stick with our 9 to 11? Just, we're not going to necessarily vote on it yet, but I do want to hear some more things. Jayshree, I think you had
Start
something.
with quarterly. We don't have to have that special meeting monthly.
Okay.
These are some great ideas. We could go quarterly, but I think we need to shift the time because that's why people can't make it on night like. But I'm working full time now.
Right,
I'm just squeezed in and came running today.
right.
I would love it in the evening, and I love the library idea because library hosting, we can put on the flyers. People can even, we can invite the community members to join us too for those people. But we could start quarterly maybe if monthly is not possible.
So one suggestion was maybe going to quarterly, and that is something that we were considering, doing quarterly General Assembly meetings, and then we could have our focus group meetings on the alternative months, focusing either on substances or our sector, like so education sector could meet, or law enforcement or parents, So those are some ideas that we have right now. Obviously, this won't happen in the next 3 months, but these are definitely things that we can think of for the remainder of the year. So I wanted to get these ideas at the beginning of the year so we could start building them in and give people plenty of time to make those changes if needed. Okay. When I sent out the calendar, I added some monthly themes. I wanted to emphasize that those are more reflective of our outside events that we want to kind of stick to, but we will touch on them here at this meeting. One thing that I put on our meeting schedule, and unfortunately it wasn't all comprehensive, but it's special awareness days. So for example, at the end of March, it's Take Down Tobacco Day. It's Prevention Week in May. It's some areas that absolutely pertain to the work that we do here, but then some might seem a little more off, but they absolutely do relate. And we're going to talk shortly on one of the monthly themes, and we're going to tie it in and show how it applies to us. But if there is a monthly theme that you think of that we did not put on the meeting schedule, please let me know. If you see something on the meeting schedule and say, oh, wait, this is Women's History Month, I know someone in the field, and make a suggestion. We're especially looking for lunch and learn suggestions right now. Next week is African American History Month. We're looking for people in the field. We would love to have a lunch and learn. We're going to have a guest speaker next month for this meeting on the war on drugs and its ramification on different sectors of the community. That is being taught by a professor at TCNJ. So I'm excited about that one, but we want to reflect the power of the theme as well as the history. And then, as I've mentioned several times, we are going to resurrect the executive board. If you or your organization would like to be a part of that, please email me, let me know. There are people that I am, or organizations that I'm reaching out to ask them to specifically be on our board. For those of you who weren't aware, we had all of the major hospitals represented. We had several of our larger service providers represented, all of our 2 colleges that we partner with represented, and some other clinicians and prevention leaders on that executive board. With the attrition rate of people retiring during COVID and change of positions in different things, we have actually lost contacts with a lot of those bigger organizations. The hospitals are one, somebody like Catholic Charities, some of those far-reaching organizations, we've lost some of our contacts. So if you have contacts or working relationships with them, please let me know. We're kind of looking for community. So if you're looking for a person who replaced another person, we're looking for community educator. We're looking for prevention educator. We're looking for community collaborator, something with that kind of job title or that motivation behind their name. So if you come across someone or know somebody who knows somebody, please let us know, because we want them here. We want their talents, we want their insight, and we want them to be part of the solution and talking about some of the issues we're seeing.
And Melissa.
Yes, sir.
One thing, I think what's kind of happened during the course of the pandemic and everything is that my program over on the harm reduction side had to get even more tightly integrated. There were a lot of committees that showed up, you know, in Mercer County, like the Hospitality Review Team, our outreach subcommittee. So we are collaborating very closely between, you know, Trenton Health Team, Catholic Charities, Oaks Integrated, in way to the right in the harm reduction domain. I think we've lost the connection up front in the prevention domain,
Right.
but we have good relationships. In fact, we're starting to do prevention education, as you know, at the, you know, mommy and me, you know, IOP programs at Catholic Charities.
Right.
We're going to be presenting at other IOPs as well, you know, going into the next couple of months.
Right.
I can probably, it would be a very low reach to re-engage some of them with the connections that I have at Oaks and Catholic Charities. The hospitals, I agree, are another issue, but there is an update. Now we have 3 out of 4 hospitals in Mercer County that are all under the Capital Health umbrella. We are now still hamstrung by that lack of an executed MOU workflow agreement with them.
Okay.
But according to Kim Watson, on January 20th, they are having their final meeting on the MOU and workflow. And we
Okay.
should expect something for signature after that, which will allow us to re-engage with the hospitals, reintroduce not only
Fantastic.
work services, but all our services. So I think by the end of January, things will change with Capital Health. I'm
All right.
hopeful.
Thank
Or there may
you.
be a big surprise.
I will talk to you more in depth after,
Okay,
at another time, like, you know,
so there are options. I can
Right.
reach out to, you know,
thank
other
you.
community, you know, PCBHC type providers. for
Kim
that.
Watson was on my hit list, actually. It's funny that you put that, I literally have her in my notes. Where is Kim Watson? So, thank you so
I haven't
much.
seen her on an online meeting.
Right.
in 2 years.
And harm reduction is absolutely part of the prevention process.
Yep.
When the federal budget was rolled out under the Biden-Harris administration, there was a huge emphasis on harm reduction. And so we are embracing that. And it's always something that we've embraced, but we're now, there's kind of like a federal mandate to make sure that we're embracing harm reduction. We're definitely doing that. Angela, I know it was a while ago, but I saw your hand up. Angela, you still around? She might have
Sorry
had
about that. I had a
Well,
problem with my mute button.
a button to
I
push.
would you be able to speak to the group about what the expectations of someone volunteering to be on the executive board would be? Like, what is the hope of that committee? What's the commitment going to look like?
No, that's a great point. Thank you. We usually have a meeting about a week before or a day before, either a week or a day, depended on the way the schedule fell before our General Assembly PCMC meeting, just kind of to set the agenda, to talk about things. And a lot of times these were key informants in their communities. So they were reporting back to us things that they had seen, things that they were concerned about, that they wanted addressed at the General Assembly, or they wanted more insight onto. We talk about areas where we can volunteer or be a part of the community as a whole. People would bring in education opportunities. So it was an ability. It was a lot like what we do here, but it's boiled down into more review of the action plan, a little bit tighter with the different aspects of our evaluation and implementation. So the executive board meetings were about an hour and a half. We tried to host those late in the afternoon, but of course, depending on our executive committee, we can adjust that per need. Also, they would be the first ones that we would call to help chair a certain event or an organization activities. So, for example, if we were having a huge cannabis meeting, we used to host one with Ryder every year. If we were doing that, then we would pull someone from the exec board to take the lead on that. And they would work really closely with us for coordination. We're not going to hang them out to dry, but they would tell, they would help guide it. Also, since they were part of the bigger organizations, they could tell us coordinating efforts that we might not know about. So kind of that insight of, okay, so if you're doing something with law enforcement, we have this division that works with that. And if we're working with, the student services, there's one that addresses maybe this ACE. So those are some of the expectations of the exec board. So we're talking maybe 2 more. Okay, Barbara's already gone. We're talking about maybe 2 more hours of interaction, probably every other month. We're probably not going to do the executive board meetings every month, but we will plan ahead with them for the other meetings. And then, an occasional ask for responsibility for a certain event as they come along. So those are some of the responsibilities for those. So some events that are happening right now that we want people to get involved in. We kicked off our Strengthening Families at the school board building in Trenton. Angela, do you want to speak to that at all? Or we have the flyers out for our membership. I didn't ask you beforehand, so.
I mean, there's very little to say. So we are offering the Strengthening Families program for free for families that are from Mercer County. It's being held at the Board of Ed. We are providing supper for every meeting. It starts at 5. We will be gathering every Tuesday until April. And we still welcome families. The way the curriculum is written is that we're allowed to add additional families, I believe, until the 2nd session. So that'll be next week. So if you do have anyone that's interested, it would be helpful for them to contact Denise Chris, which is the person on the flyer, so that she can appropriately adapt our food order. We want to make sure that if someone wants to join us, that we have enough food to provide for them and their families. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And that is one of our supplemental block grant initiatives as well. And it went really well. And we're working really hard on that. There is a parenting teens class. I have the brochures here live. I will email them out with the minutes. It is done by our Empower Somerset. That's one of the Mercer Council counterparts in Somerset County. They have an initiative that goes for Somerset County, I believe Hunterdon County and Mercer County to help parents of teens. It's being offered in English and Spanish. And there is a reward. I think it's a $50 gift card for completing, I think it's 2 sessions. And those, I think they have scheduled sessions, and then they're offering it for you to schedule for groups that it would apply to. So that is being offered. I will send that out. We are already starting to think about Overdose Awareness Day. Honestly, from the minute that's over, we start thinking about the next ones. It is the official International Overdose Awareness Day is August 31st. And one thing that we did, since we were one of the first to celebrate or recognize International Overdose Awareness Day, we kind of picked a date that was convenient, that was close enough to the 31st. So we kind of designated that last Tuesday in August to International Overdose Awareness Day. The reason why I am asking for suggestions for dates is because that's what we did last year. We observed it on the Tuesday of the week. I think it fell on the 29th. We did not get the press coverage that the other ones that were officially on the 31st date got, because we weren't hosting it on the actual date. One of the stipulations is we want to make sure that our major partners are able to do it. And one thing to keep in mind, and I know this is a very emotional observance, it's a very wonderful event. It's uplifting and supportive. And holidays shouldn't really impact it, but that is also the weekend of Memorial Day. So that does have, Labor Day, sorry, Memorial Day, Labor Day. So that does have an impact on what people are doing, their vacation schedules, things like that. So this year, August 31st falls on a Thursday, which is close to the weekend, obviously. And I just want to hear do people have opinions on that? I know it seems so far away.
It's event by event. I mean, there are overdose awareness events that entire week, not every, some of which are very well attended. I was at three different ones, including ours last year. It's really more of a question, I think, of marketing and promotion,
Mhm.
well in advance. We did do, some Facebook promotions and things like that, but that's probably, that's not going to draw in like press attention and things that you felt may have been lacking. I think the location last year was a barrier,
Okay,
compared to, having it in the park at Hopewell. It was not an ideal logistical situation, in Ewing in the parking lot,
Mhm.
right? So there were a variety of factors, I think, that played into it. I'm not sure, the 29th is a Tuesday this year, the 31st is the Thursday. But the 31st is going into the Labor Day weekend.
Right.
So people take their Friday off, and extend it. I'm not sure. The other thing is, if you do it on the 31st and there's 3 other events all throughout South Jersey, you can
Yeah.
then have less attendance.
That's true.
Depending on who you want to have it targeted.
Right.
We got a lot of feedback that we need to make it less about all the providers and service providers, that are, trying to help fight the addiction battle and prevent overdoses, and get back to more of the roots, that this is really a memorial service for the families that have lost
Right.
loved ones.
The sheriff's
We've
office
heard that.
cannot park in front of the memorial tent.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and then,
None of you officer about it, but yes.
the fact of the matter is, it was much more about, the families and, the relatives of those. And then we had the 1 year of hybrid where it was really kind of dominated by a couple of families, where we did it in your side yard, and then when we got back to it, it seems like suddenly it's become like an outreach event for treatment center providers and everything. And it's less personal about, even though we haven't changed the format, we still
Right.
have a recovery speaker, we still have, someone that's, been impacted by addiction, on a personal level, but somehow it seems like the perception has changed to
But we,
being more about
right,
fighting addiction than it is about overdose, awareness and memorialization.
we kind of want that balance because we did want it to be a place where a family could go if
And
they were,
find
if they
resources.
were looking for
Yeah.
something, if they were looking for a resource where they could also connect with families that have been in that. I think there was a man who was the county sheriff, or he was from the prosecutor's office. His son had died from overdose, and I remember he spoke at our 5th one, I believe. And he said, it's the worst, Medina, that's it. He said it's the worst club that you've ever been a part of. He was like, it's a club that none of us want to be a part of, and that is the club of a family who lost a child in his case. And we want this, we absolutely want that. We want to make those connections so that people can grieve, so people can memorialize, so that we can remember what we're fighting for, but we also want that resource area. And yeah, so we
It's
definitely,
a balance.
we do want to balance it. And so that's kind of the way I laid it out too. I had like the educational side on one side, and I had, more of the recovery on the other side, but I don't know if that kind of went through it. I have gotten feedback when we initially started this. The goal was to get it into every township. So every year a different township. But that has come back to kind of bite us in the rear end because people don't know where it is going to be because it's kind of a crapshoot. And some communities are more engaged than others. The fact that we had it in the parking lot at the Ewing Community Center, that's where all their big events are in Ewing. And so that was, pretty standard for the Ewing community, but for the outside community, they might not have understood why are we in the middle of a parking lot instead of like at a memorial park. And we were trying to address, we had the memorial circle, we had the memorial tents, and we were trying to keep it the same format, just in, a park, a more community center based area instead of a more like park, rural kind of thing. I did see a hand up. Angela?
My suggestion, and I had a few. I mean, so for one, I would like us this year to try to coordinate with some of the other events. I feel like the PCMC should be part of everyone's memorial event, and it was disheartening last year to hear that there was another event in our county and that, you know, we weren't active. So I feel like it'd be helpful this year to possibly invite all these different stakeholders and see how we could collectively support each other. I did relate very much to Dave's comment. And one of the things that really resonated for me was that it was very provider heavy. We had more ratio wise, we had more providers than people impacted. And for me, when I start thinking of like, how do we change the representation of who's showing up, I feel like there might be more need to do more collective like outreach to those families and the communities that they are a part of, to invite them to join, you know, because we want to create the space for them. And my final point is, you know, the need for representation of multiple religious faith base. I find that it was really nice to have one religious affiliation present. It would be nice to have more diversity in that.
We
Because
had three. We had three churches represented, but yeah, you're
But
right.
But not just churches. I mean, you know, can we get somebody from a synagogue to come out? Can somebody from a temple attend? You know, there are other faith traditions outside of Christianity, and I think it would be helpful to have that representation of those communities as well, because Mercer County is just so diverse.
Okay. Exactly. I saw a couple more hands go up. Carol Nicholas. Carol?
Sorry, it takes a while for the unmute to work.
Exactly.
So yeah, a couple thoughts. I totally agree with Angela's last comment about the religions. There is actually a pastor association, which includes all the different religions, that I can probably dig around and see if I can find a contact there for you. Because that would be really cool if you had all the different religions represented too. The other thing that struck me is it's a strange time for the organization that made this date, you know, the end of August, because everybody in North America books off in August for vacations before school starts in September.
It's Australian.
It's Australian.
It was
Okay,
started in Australia.
that explains it. Okay. So the only groups that come to mind that always are around at that time of year are the school sports programs. The last 2 weeks of August is when everybody's training, so that come the first day of school, the teams are in shape. So I was thinking that would be a great link and a great service project for the teams too, to join something like this and participate and to rally up their friends and say, this is what my team is doing. And I don't know how that could work, but I think it's, you know, something definitely work. And then if you held the event at Mercer County Park, it's all the towns. It's not just.
That's what we've heard lately. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, it's not just you know, Ewing or Hopewell sponsoring it. It's all the towns. So those are just my couple thoughts.
Okay, I saw another hand, but it's not coming up. Did someone change their mind? No, okay. Jay Street.
Yes.
No, could you guys hear Dave when he was talking? Okay, all right.
Yes.
Okay, Jay Street, go ahead.
So absolutely, the school sports team, that's a great idea.
It's a wonderful idea.
And I think going back to the executive board, maybe we should have, or rather encourage, try to get people representation from all 12 sectors. That way we have someone representing every sector, number one. And talking about school sports team, I think we should have these sports coaches with us.
Right.
They educators you've already mentioned, but I think this coaches would be great to have because they work so closely with these athletes. There's everything involved there. There's stress, they're at that age where they're more likely. So I think coaches are great people to add on to our group.
And we do have the TOPS program, which is the opioid young athletes program. I have to tell you, I reach out, I get, oh yeah, that's important. And then, well, can I schedule something? Oh, well, yeah, we'll figure something out. So there's there's not full buy-in, but we can dig deeper into the school contacts that we have and get to those sports teams. And especially with timing, that's a great idea, Carol. With that timing, that could be a special event. Yeah. Because that is one of our target areas is young athletes with pain medication because of their injuries. And it kind of goes from there.
And I totally agree with Mercer County. That's where all the big events happen. And I like the idea that we can have it every year at the same place.
Right.
So booking is easy, it's locked for our event, and you can bring everyone into that space. I agree.
I see Eric Meyer.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'm Eric Meyer. I'm the new prevention specialist for 1-800-GAMBLER, and I'm going to be serving Mercer County. So I wanted to jump on and just make a quick introduction as I have an in-person meeting that was also scheduled at 10. So I got to log off in a few minutes.
Okay.
But I did want to go ahead and just let everyone know who I am and that I'm looking to get involved with Mercer County in the upcoming, months and years. And it's good to be on the meeting this morning. And I would like to volunteer if there was any push forward with the, with that suggestion with the sports. I would like to try and get involved with my message related to gambling into the high schools. And I would definitely be willing to get involved in any committees related to, the event that you're looking to plan for, moving forward there as well.
Okay, thank you, Eric. What is your email? So we'll type it in the chat for you since I see you're driving.
Yeah, I'm in the car now. I'm going to be jumping out. I'm going to meet someone here. It's 800, Eric, just ERIC at 800gambler.org.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. It's good to be on this morning. I'll be on in the future, and thank you.
It was nice
All
talking
right.
to you before, Eric. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ruth. Yep. Appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good meeting. Hey, Dylan, I know you were at IOAD last year, and that was a new one for your group. So go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to add on to what Eric said as well about the gambling program. We actually are on the board of compulsive gambling. We accept any client in the state of New Jersey for free. They get treatment here for free. It's not a GA meeting. Anyone can come. It's on Tuesdays. We offer individual therapy, group therapy, and of course, family therapy. If a mother, father, daughter wants, therapy because their loved one is a compulsive gambler, we do that as well. It does not take insurance. It's a strictly free program. We have a compulsive gambling grant with the state of New Jersey that pays for the treatment. So it's 100% free.
Wow. That's what, now, are there age restrictions on that?
18 and over right now.
Okay,
I
okay.
could confirm that with my executive director, but we don't have a license to have anyone under the age of 18 in the building unless the compulsive is different, which I do not think it is, but
Okay.
it's still, a free program. If we have clients all over the state of New Jersey, it's an in-person, and those that live far away, it goes via Zoom or Google Meets.
Okay.
It kind of blew up. It really blew up, that program. So since they made, gambling legal all over the phones, people stopped going to the casino and just went right on the phone. We have one client that was gambling during his intake and he couldn't stop. He was literally sitting here. I'm watching him play poker on his phone as we're, conversing, getting things. So I don't think insurance companies nor the government know how devastating and destructive gambling is. I mean, I'm a recovering, heroin addict. What I spent gambling, you can spend gambling on a weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I jump in? I'm sorry, I don't have my hand up. I'm a colleague of Eric's, and I've been to your offices before. This is Dan Muir at the Council of Compulsive Gambling. Yeah, what you described, Dylan, is absolutely on the mark, and you see a lot of it. People cannot tear themselves away. Having gambling on our phones just makes it, well, the way I describe it is for somebody with problem gambling, it's like analogous to the alcoholic maybe carrying around a pint of vodka all the time, because we have to have our phones with us. We just can't we can't conduct our everyday business, work, contact with friends, sending emails. We need our phones with us all the time. But for somebody with a gambling problem, that is a very troublesome scenario. So,
and I know with the Super Bowl, we always do a highlight of gambling right around this time of year, because we understand just the ramifications of that weekend and the co-occurrence that we see with substance use and gambling and just compulsive behaviors and addiction as well. So thank you so much for being here. Dylan, did you?
Yeah, from what I've seen, a couple of these clients, more than a couple, are sober. They have 20 years sober of recovery and in addiction in the sense of substance abuse, alcohol. And then they switch over to the gambling aspect. They've been gambling for 10 years a week because it's illegal.
Right.
And
the virus changes. Yeah.
Yeah, I was at a treatment facility, a substance use treatment facility yesterday morning, talking about that very thing, both how common it is for there to be, multiple addictions or the transference from maybe being, a substance, not using a substance anymore, but turning to then gambling addiction. So,
yeah.
And most of the time when I say when I do these intakes and pre-screens, what's your drug of choice? And like, I don't do a drug. Oh, I go, oh, you're here for gambling. Gambling's a drug. Like, that's how I look at it. Oh, your drug is gambling. Your drug is.
well,
We definitely want to keep the co-occurring and the addictions. We definitely want to keep talking about that. We're going to have to continue through. Is there something, Dylan, do you have a flyer for
Yes,
this?
I would love to share that with you
Can
guys.
you share that with me so that we can include it? Dan and
Eric.
we
Eric
just lost
popped
Eric. But if you guys have something, if you have something, especially if you send it out about this time of year, we definitely like to send it out to our membership so we can get that word out, especially at this time of year.
Okay, great. I'm working on a blog around the Super Bowl. And
nice.
and I will I'll send that over to you when it's done.
Absolutely perfect. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. We definitely appreciate our partners in that aspect.
Okay, thank you.
And then Dylan, at another time, I'd like to talk to you more about your ideas and thoughts from IOAD. We're going to have to move on, but I just remember you being there, and it was a positive experience to have you there.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And then I think you went world traveling right afterwards, and I was super jealous. So some of the just one more thing that I want to touch on is sponsors for IOAD. Do we want to sell out? No, not exactly, but there are definite aspects that we would love some co-sponsorship with. I know the prosecutor office sponsors us, as well as the Chief of Police Association, but we're thinking more corporate as well, and just getting people involved to help us with their marketing efforts, because corporations have some ties in there. So any ideas, please share those with us at a later time. A lot of the events that happened last year were actually sponsored by certain treatment centers. So they were, they had the families that they were working with there. So it was a different flavor. So if we could bring all of those in under the one umbrella, we have been the one that's been the longest in the state of we're the second longest in the state of New Jersey, definitely the first in this area. This will be our 8th event. We kept it going during COVID. Obviously, it's something we're very proud of, something that we've gotten some really good insight with in the past, and we definitely want to keep it going. So kind of speaking towards that, towards our harm reduction, we're going to start our quarterly Narcan classes again. We're going to do those live until we hear some feedback, and we definitely have the resources to do it virtually if people need those schedules, because we do definitely have those schedules. Health fairs, community groups, other events coming up that PCMC can be represented at. We're always looking for these. With COVID, we saw a drastic drop off of health fairs and community fairs. So we just want to make sure that we are there. We want to make sure that we're seen, that we're getting our messages out and supporting the communities that need us. So please, what I'm asking is everyone, when you hear something, even if your organization isn't doing it, take a picture of a flyer that you see at the library or something, email it to us, say, hey, is this something we could get involved in? Now, there might be an added caveat that I might say, great, can you help us table? But don't let that threat stop you. We do want to be involved in those events as they get up and running, because they are probably trying to reformulate how they're doing it as well. Okay, thanks, Carol. I've been seeing you giving us some great notes there in the comments. I appreciate that.
I got it.
And then, of course, so who should be at the table is absolutely one of those questions we should be carrying with us when we're representing PCMC, but where would we like to be seen more? I know faith-based has changed a lot, so that would be a great place to focus. The media, we still have those 2 really stalwart media contacts, but I would like to expand it, especially to a younger audience. Some of our media contacts that we have are reach older audiences, whether it's talk radio. So one's talk radio and one is the
We
newspaper.
really want to get onto 94.5 and
Yes.
104.5.
Yes. So
I really like their music.
yeah, that too. So those are always something to be considered. So our monthly theme spotlight is Poverty Awareness Month, and Ruth has prepared a little part of that. Do you want to share it through yours?
No, it's on yours. All right, so just as a quick thing, we do want to touch upon January is poverty awareness. All right, good. It changed. It takes a hot minute. So the reason why we want to talk about this is because January is Poverty Awareness Month, but what we want to understand about poverty is it inherently affects any population and any form of any stage of life, and especially children. It can be very damaging. So what we sort of want to talk about here is that with poverty especially, it's a comorbidity, meaning that it doesn't exist on its own terms. It usually comes along with something else. So if you are in poverty, you inherently don't have access to good health care. If you are in poverty, you don't necessarily have access to education that is good for you. Well, inherently, when we're talking about education, especially, we see it as the great equalizer, but we don't, oh, sorry, I gotta admit someone. What we don't understand sometimes if we're not in that situation is also understanding that with that education, that is a subpar education due to the resources that exist through property taxes. So I wanted to touch upon this. Obviously, health is very important. The reason why we're talking about this is because Mercer County has, Trenton was voted the 7th most poverty-stricken city in New Jersey. And that is something that we obviously would like to address. With health, the reason why it affects it is because it obviously access to water, access to clean crops, food deserts, those sorts of things. That's really important for people to look at. Education, the National Center of Education Statistics, 19% of individuals under the age of 18 lived in poverty during the 2015 and 16 school year. So that means 19% of children lived in poverty at some point during 2015 and 16. Also, safety evidence shows, and this is from the World Bank, evidence shows that social safety nets are making a substantial contribution to people's livelihoods. And the reason being is because it can help people escape extreme poverty. It can also close the gaps that poverty creates and obviously reduce forms of inequality. Safety nets usually build resilience in terms of how you're able to access things. So it actually opens up your options to what that looks like. Oh, thank you, Dylan. Appreciate it. We have your information. And also the reason why we do want to talk about this as well is because it's key to building human capital. And what we touch upon, especially in the Mercer Council and the PCMC, is that human capital is exactly what it is. It's literally a human's worth based on what they contribute to society. And a lot of the time, we want to make sure that we're not giving barriers to those people that want to contribute back to their communities. Also, justice, access to lawmakers, lawyers, very much so. There are crime rates in poverty-stricken areas that are higher than in other places just due to lack of resources, boundaries, safety, and things like that. And obviously opportunity. There we are. Okay, so another thing that I want to talk about is this is New Jersey right here. So. Is it going to die? No, it's fine. Sorry, I'm not done with the charger. Okay, so Black and Latinx New Jerseyans experience high rates of poverty. If you look here, we have some things right here that make the most sense to us in terms of how we conglomerate the information. This is from the Census Bureau. And they said percentage of residents, and this is the federal poverty level. So based on the proportional way that, let's say you make 80,000 in California, it doesn't get you nearly as far as 80,000 in Kansas. So they're doing it based proportionally on the standard of living. And so you have here a lot of different demographics. And we look over here, we also are looking at Latinx and Black alone that are the highest poverty-stricken areas. A lot of the time we see this is because we have a influx of immigration into our state, and these people may not have the resources that they're really looking for to thrive and find opportunity. Any questions so far? I wouldn't think so, but yeah. Okay, so I have this, and the reason why I want to talk about this is because poverty in children inherently is something that is an adverse childhood experience. Angela, you have your hand raised. Anything?
I just wanted to clarify that the impact of education, first, Mercer County, we have one of the best school systems in the state. It's one of the reasons I moved down here. And what we have is a deficiency of appropriate mental health services for these children, because living in chronic poverty is a traumatic lived experience. It increases our stress and it causes additional environmental factors. In addition, one of the other deficiencies in our educational system and how it impacts our children is that we are a high lead area, and lead does create cognitive deficiencies within young people. So I wanted to just, clarify that point, that it's a fact of trauma. It's about accessing appropriate culturally specific mental health providers and services and languages. Here in Mercer County, we have a deficiency in how many providers actually speak people's native languages, which are the most appropriate for providing mental health services. And we also, to touch on your pace about first generation immigration, immigrating to another country isn't a traumatic life experience. They have higher needs for mental health services and stabilization services, because oftentimes, especially here in New Jersey, some of our migrants are coming from areas that had inherently systemic issues, and that the large proportion of people living in poverty is still the side effect of redlining and a lot of existing Jim Crow laws that continue to just create instability within our society. And it's not just about a deficiency in resources. It's about not being trauma informed and not meeting people where they are. But there's also that systemic oppression and the fact that systemic racism is traumatic. And I wanted to clarify that, because we have an amazing public school system here in Mercer County.
Thank you. And we have addressed that racism is a public health issue, and it absolutely ties in with the ACEs and the trauma. Yes, that Ruth is highlighting.
Yeah, and just to touch on your point as well, I do have a really conclusive, I don't want to say conclusive, but a really comprehensive presentation on lead and water and how it actually affects youth. You can go to our YouTube channel. It's right there. It sits there with my face right there.
It's one of her passion projects. We've done a logic model for it and everything.
Yeah, we do have a logic model that we are actually looking to expand upon, and hopefully look for funding for in certain capacities to make sure that we can address that issue. So thank you, Angela. I appreciate it. Also, understand that poverty is an ACE, and we know what ACEs are, at least inherently, because I think we've all heard it quite a bit. But just to let you know, adverse childhood experience. An adverse childhood experience is anything that affects a child when they're a child, and how it could affect their development throughout their lifetime, especially as adults, on how they cope with relationships and the environment around them. Thank you, Emily, really appreciate it. So I have a great publication here that talks about 5 ways poverty harms children. And this is childtrends.org. They basically look at child development, and poverty harms the brain and other systems. Poverty creates and widens achievement gaps. It leads to poor physical, emotional, behavioral health. And poor children are more likely to live in neighborhoods with concentrated poverty, which is associated with numerous social ills, such as justice, inability, or food deserts and those sorts of things. And poverty can harm children through negative effects it has on their families and their environment. Most fights in the home, at least when it comes to poverty, is huge. I don't want to make generalizations, but a lot of the fights in the home are usually about how to manage money or how people are making money. Arguments, there was a divorce statistic in the 1970s, was it?
It was later than that, 1990s, I think.
That said, money was one of the #1 cited reasons why people divorce. And so, you know, this is something to look at, right? I do all these resources, you will be emailed and you will be given. So if you need more information, it's I have publications, I have quite a bit of resources. I have the worldbank.org, I have the unicef.org on there. So if you're looking for anything specific. So a lot of the time people will hear this and they'll want to say, okay, what can we do? What are the things that I can do myself to make sure that the children that I care about are actually being provided for and are taken care of? One of the first things is understanding that poverty is the most common adverse childhood experience in the United States. Also, we want to build spaces for opportunities. So if you have children that are looking for a space to be somewhere else besides their home because their home may be toxic or may not be a good place for them to do their homework or things like that, build spaces for them, provide spaces for them. Community centers are a great way to do that. Give proper compensation to work. So for example, if you have someone and you own a business that comes and you want to pay them under the table and you're paying them less than what their work is done, then it's not inherently making that human capital better because you're only giving them a living wage. And you want to give them the compensation for the work that they're actually doing. I've heard quite a bit of times that people say we're giving you experience, which inherently is not a bad thing, but giving people experience doesn't feed their children. And so we want to make sure that there is a balance of the efforts that we are doing and also the compensation that we are giving. We also want to partner with programs that help with this cause. There are many places that partner with us. The Trenton Health Kitchen or the Trenton Area Soup Kitchen is one of them. Homefront, what's in the Anchor House? We have quite a bit. Obviously, Advocate, propose policy that helps eradicate poverty. Shine and Inspire. Shine and Inspire is a great one. Make kits and fundraise. So you can actually make kits for people. There are many organizations that also make kits. So you can like put sandwiches together or you can like fundraise for backpacks or things like that for children. Create jobs. If you are a business owner, create jobs that people can flock to. And the people in your community have to be directly involved. You can't assume what their needs are. So they have to tell you what their needs are. And let your community tell you what they need. So that's it. I have resources here if you would like them. There are a couple of pages worth. So I don't think anybody has any questions, but I'll propose it. Does anybody have any questions? I don't think so. Okay.
I will add that just to clarify, a living wage in the state of New Jersey is $36 an hour. Anything underneath it is called a poverty wage. And there is a great resource. It's called the Alice Report. It's carried on by United Way, and it's done every year. And they specifically do one for New Jersey where they compare our cost of living, the cost of food, and what exactly poverty looks like. And they are a lot more accurate at just displaying what poverty in New Jersey looks like than the census data.
Thank you so much, Angela. I'm writing that down so we can put that in the notes.
I just had one other thing to add, that we are blessed to have a new department at the Department of Children and Family Services called the Office of Resilience. You know, when you look at all these statistics, it can get very depressing and sad. But if you learn about ACEs and realize that it's the personal relationship that helps to prevent ACEs and to cure the adverse effects from ACEs, you know, safety and equity and stable environments, social and civic engagement, emotional growth. These are the sort of the 4 building blocks to dealing with ACEs. Anyway, so I love the motto at the Office of Resilience, 2 in 3 children experience ACEs, 3 out of 3 adults can help. And I just thought that's so true. It's recognizing the child in your classroom that, something's off and creating that relationship. It's recognizing your neighbor and realizing something's off and creating that relationship, or your coworker, recognizing something's not right and not being judgmental and just, trying to figure out what happened to this person as opposed to what's wrong with this person. So there's a lot of great resources on the Office of Resilience, and I highly recommend it.
Right. Thank you, Carol. That's much appreciated.
And
I'm writing it down. That's a great resource.
Yeah, and that's absolutely part of the language that we're trying to change. We were actually just working with the school. We're trying to change out of school suspension to in-school suspension to try to maintain some of those protective factors for youth, especially those that we have proof that are using. And that's one of the biggest changes, is the last thing you said, is changing the teacher's vocabulary from what did you do to what happened to you, or what's wrong, what's happening, or why are you turning to these substances, asking more of the why and getting to the root instead of just punishing the behavior. So that's definitely part of the awareness. And I've taken some forums with the Office of Resilience. So that is definitely something that we should work more in line with. So we were talking about the new year and kind of realigning our goals. We want to make sure that we do SMART goals. We're kind of running low on time, so we can't really delve into it as much as I want to right now, but we will definitely bring this up again. So when you're making goals, you want to make sure that they're SMART, they're clear and specific. I have issues with this sometimes because I'm too big picture. So that's why I keep wonderful people around me who can help me suss out, okay, but why? What are we really looking for? Let's drill down, let's find this out. And that's why it takes so many people to make initiatives happen, because you have someone who's the creative and the one who's really passionate and the one who really wants to know the data and the facts and the feasibility. So we need to make it specific. We need to make it measurable. Define how we're going to measure it. Is it a quantitative where we actually have some hard numbers? Is it a qualitative? What resources are we getting those from? Is it attainable? Of course, we could say we want to solve poverty or we want to solve the addiction crisis, but is that feasible? Not necessarily. We can work together and we can be a part of those efforts, but we need to make sure that we keep those in check. Is it relevant? Are our goals relevant? Is it something that you personally are passionate about, or is it a niche area, or is it something that truly addresses the organization as a whole or the coalition as a whole? And then time-based, set those boundaries so that you can check in and check your milestones. You can check your measurements. You can check your relevancy. Is it still relevant? We're just kind of going back. So set up a time-based boundary. So by the year 2025, we will have reduced, we will have increased teen perception of risk or something like that. So these are definitely the ways to keep goals SMART. So these are some of the things that we talked about in the last meeting. We talked about some of the issues that we're seeing. This is just one of the screen grabs that I got, and one that I caught on that kind of flows into my next topic is better coordination and use of the lot of money that is coming. And with that, I wanted to make sure that my membership was aware that there have been some social equity excise fee hearings that have been going on. There was one last night. I haven't checked in with our executive director who was in attendance to that one, but there is another one on January 18th. I will absolutely be there. There are some things that I'm going to be putting in writing that I'm going to submit to the Regulatory Commission, as well as speaking to the Regulatory Commission I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it to the public board meeting, but this is literally their ask. Where are we going to use the funds that we are getting from the cannabis market? So, you know, who needs this money and what is the end goal? So right now, social equity is their goal. That's the one that they put on that banner. So some things that they have built into the cannabis regulations are that they have impact zones, places where it's unfairly, they say the war on drugs has unfairly impacted a population. Mercer County has 3, Lawrence, Trenton, and Ewing. All 3 cities we have a large presence in. This is where our Mercer Council, you know, headquarters are. And there's 2 things that Trenton and Ewing have that I think Lawrence needs, and I'll talk about that next. Another thing that came up when we were discussing what we wanted to ask is cannabis use disorder. Are people using the diagnostic in the DSM-5? Are they, is that following into some kind of law codification? And then what service are available for those? So one thing that we're having is, of course, I heard this anecdotally from a key informant. However, I wanted to reach out and see if anybody else had heard this experience. A person was incarcerated because of cannabis use. This was before this new policy came in. So part of her condition of release was that she had to get into a medical program to address her use. However, she was a veteran. When she went to the VA is like, that's not considered a substance abuse offense that we would have a program for. So she wasn't able to comply with her court appointed because the medical community wasn't acknowledging it. So we need to kind of have that discussion of, you know, since it is legal, people say just treat it like alcohol. Well, with alcohol, there's alcoholism, but you know, there's alcohol use disorder. So we understand that cannabis can be one of those things that is used in excess. There are some definite drawbacks to chronic use, and we need to see if there are services available to that. And then the most important is what ages and populations does it serve? We hear this all the time. There's no place to send our youth, even teenagers, anyone under 18, sometimes even under 21, but we are seeing the age go down much, much more. So what asks did we come up with? So in the recommendations that the Cannabis Regulatory Commission sent to the governor preliminary before these open hearings, they said we need to have, you know, this organization, we need to have these kind of services, mental health, medical, job, transition from incarceration to active society, those kind of things, but they didn't necessarily give the how. And one of the hows that I feel very passionately is to increase the capacity of what we already have. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's not dismantle some of the systems that we have. Let's just make sure that the ones that we do have can reach the ones that reach the people that need them. So that would require more clinicians. That would include expanded hours and the ages that they serve. And obviously the coalition focuses a lot on youth use and things that are impacting youth. And that's definitely something what we want. Early intervention support services. This was one thing that was specified in there, that they wanted to expand support services. We want them to expand adult, but we need children and youth to be involved in that. The school-based youth support programs, Trenton and Ewing both have this in their high schools. They have a clinician, they have a director who is either a clinician or on their way to be a clinician. So they have 2 clinicians, and then they have student support who deals with programs. These are fantastic. Many of you know that the Ewing School-Based Youth Support Program is under us, is under the Mercer Council. It's Assist. You probably have heard us talk about Assist. They are doing away with these. They actually want to collapse them into something called a hub and then have spokes out into the community, but the hub will not be located in the schools. And we know that the schools are the best way to reach the youth that need it the most. So one thing that we're going to mention is please keep the school-based youth support programs, but expand them. Make sure that there's one in each impact zone. So for Mercer County, that would mean they already had them in Trenton and Ewing. That means make sure that Lawrence High School has one. And then from that, expand their abilities. So make sure that they have more clinicians, make sure that they don't have to worry about getting shut down every year. Make sure that they have the capability to engage in more hours of service after people are done with work, before school, those kind of things. And make sure that there's a place for these kids to be sent. Enforce the fines and the licensures. We have a lot of illegal sale with a lot of illegal labels right now. Make sure that there's uniform labeling standards to make sure that people know what is in the product, and potency oversight. Give some of that money to the ag board or to the systems that test the actual products before it goes out. Make sure that there is a general understanding about the potency. All right, so those are our asks.
Melissa, will you be holding some type of like prep gathering for PCMC members before the 18th to just give people a space to maybe just check in what they plan on saying, and so that we could possibly give them some peer support?
That's an excellent idea. If you are interested in attending this, or if you want to have something emphasized in the written, please contact me. And then I will try to set up something, and I will set up something and send it out when I send out the minute packet. Hold on. I lost it. Where is it? Okay, for anyone who doesn't have it. Okay, so there's my email. I sent it out to everyone. I'm seeing some chats coming in. Okay, Crudy had to go. She gave some ideas. Oh, Keith Levine's involved in lead. I see some great flyers here. And okay, some gambling information and some ideas on fun. Okay, thank you so much. So that is the end of our formal meeting. However, this is a time where I want to open it up. If you have events or something coming up, or if you have something that would be of interest to the coalition, please let us know. It's amazing the connections and the networking we have done throughout the years. So you're welcome to unmute yourself. And
I wanted to just do a plug. So today is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. It's a day where we bring to light the fact that human trafficking happens here in Mercer County, and oftentimes many of our young people that are trafficked and are trafficked by people they meet online. They are often exposed to substance use as a control tactic to keep them in their abuse, and that it's important for trusted adults to talk to young people about the relationships that they're developing. This is specifically true for young people that are trafficked under what's considered like the lover boy perspective, and how a trusted adult in their life to counteract the messaging that they're receiving from their trafficker can be a protective factor to reduce their chances of actually being trafficked into commercial sex work. Thank you.
is there a website or a resource that you often refer to in regards to that?
I can send that to you.
Okay, I'll make sure that gets sent out. It won't be sent out today on the actual day, but it's always good to be informed of that, because it absolutely does have a place in in substance use in general. So thank you for bringing that up.
There's actually a free Zoom on the human trafficking area, or at least in the state, which also increases when it comes to sports events, especially if we're hosting live sports events. A lot of prostitution will happen, and we have major transportation right to New York City, to Washington DC, and to Philly, and to Atlantic City. So those are all things that I could forward you the information for that. Zoom. And
Okay.
like I said, it's free. I think it's at 6:30 tonight.
Okay, Sarah, what's your last name again?
Gardner Davis.
Okay, Sarah Gardner Davis, I don't know if you heard her because she was kind of quiet in the back. She is the Municipal Alliance Coordinator for Mercer County. She said that there is a webinar that is offered. It's going to be offered tonight at 6:30. And since we are a major transportation hub, because we have, New York, Philly, Atlantic City, and Washington DC, yeah. And they also mentioned it kind of dovetails with some of the discussion that we had about gambling, that there is a lot of prostitution and a lot of trafficking involved in the Super Bowl and kind of the events leading up to and around that. So this is absolutely something to be aware of, especially if you use public transportation. I've heard some really interesting stories of ways that people have helped other people just by being aware on public transportation. Others. Thank you. Angela sent out a link if you guys want to look at that. Anything else?
I just wanted to mention that on March 23rd, we're going to be having our coalition meeting for all the nonprofits at Robert Wood Johnson Fitness Center, and I will send you a flyer once it's been created. We just booked the date this morning, so.
That's a wonderful event. We met some really great people. Hopefully we're going to bring some of them in to, actually one of them has already reached out to me several times, but one of your presenters at the last one was from the transportation board and talking about how that really is a human issue, that it does have impacts on our communities. And I'm interested to see what they have to say about traffic safety, because that's absolutely something that we're interested in. And I kind of mentioned that to her. Hey, is this something you could look out for? So some great connections there. Thank you, Carol. You said that's March 23rd?
March 23rd, it'll be 5 to 7, and food will be served. And it's a chance for people to network, but also we're hoping to find a great speaker on workforce development. That's the goal right now, but it seems to be a hard topic to find a speaker on. Then the different 4 work groups will report on some of the accomplishments that they were able to do in 2022.
Thank you so much, Carol. Anyone else? Okay, we're a little bit quiet today because we're on, most of us are on video. But again, if you have announcements, send them to me by the end of the day tomorrow, and I will try to get the minutes out on Friday. All right. So with that, I think we can conclude our meeting. I appreciate everyone being here and for the many contributions that you had, and for helping us to meet our goals to help make Mercer County more healthy, responsible, and safe. So thank you. Take care. We're going to stop the recording.
I'm trying.
Now.